Welcome to Shattering Story Collection.
A gateway to a realm of captivating storytelling and immersive adventures. Join us as we embark on an extraordinary journey through an episodic dark fantasy adventure, where each episode unveils a new chapter of this epic saga, inviting you to witness the harrowing tales of characters thrust into a world of endless dangers, mythical creatures, and potent magic. So, dear adventurer, subscribe to our channel and embark on this extraordinary journey with us. Together, let us navigate the shadows, confront our fears, and discover the light that burns within us all.
As Runa's eyelids fluttered open, the world gradually came back into focus. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the makeshift wooden walls, casting faint shadows on the dusty floor. She tried to shift her weight, but a dull ache coursed through her body, reminding her of the battle and chaos that had led her here. "It's about time you woke up. I hated thinking my medicine was wasted on you," a voice cut through the hazy air. Runa turned her head to see the archer commander leaning against a tree, arms crossed and eyes fixed on her. "Thank you," Runa instinctively murmured, a weak smile crossing her lips. The commander's eyebrow twitched in annoyance at the response. "Listen, little girl," the commander's voice carried a stern edge. "You and every child here are prisoners, slaves waiting to be sold. We are Vikings who raided your village, killed your families. Don't forget the position you're in." With a heavy sigh, the archer commander pushed off the tree and turned to walk away. But Runa's voice stopped her retreat. "Wait, who saved us?" she asked, a mix of curiosity and confusion tinging her tone. "I did, but don't thank me for that," the archer commander replied, a raised finger punctuating her words. The room fell into a brief silence, the weight of their circumstances hanging. A temporary respite came when they halted by a tranquil river, its murmurs a soothing counterpoint to the tensions that gripped them. Seizing a moment away from the watchful eyes of their captors, the children huddled together in whispered conversations, their hopes of escape shared in hushed tones. In the midst of their whispered deliberations, the children's world was abruptly interrupted by the unexpected presence of a Viking stumbling into their midst. His body, weary and battered, bore the visible signs of his exhaustion as he babbled on, voicing his inability to take another step. But as his words drifted off into the wind, the Viking and the children alike were captivated by a mesmerizing sight. Their collective gaze turned towards the water's edge, where a magnificent grey horse had appeared, its elegant form a stark contrast against the backdrop of the river. The soft ripples of the water seemed to caress its legs as it stepped gracefully upon the liquid surface, a breathtaking sight that held the children in a state of awe. As the horse continued its serene walk along the water, one of the children's eyes widened with disbelief, and he pointed towards its feet, unable to contain his astonishment. The hushed gasps of wonder spread through the group as they beheld the impossible. A horse walking upon the water's surface as effortlessly as if it were solid ground. The Viking's weary mutterings were replaced by a newfound hope, his gaze fixed upon the miraculous sight. "That's how I'll get home," he mumbled, his voice trembling with a mixture of relief and excitement. "My woman, my boys, I'm coming home." With each step the horse took, it seemed to beckon him closer, inviting him into a world of escape and freedom. Drawing nearer to the edge of the river, the Viking extended a trembling hand towards the horse, his fingers brushing against its sleek coat. The horse turned its head with a gentle nicker, a silent assurance that seemed to promise a ride to safety. With a mix of trepidation and anticipation, the Viking swung a leg over the horse's back, mounting it with a cautious hopefulness. His relief was palpable, his body finally free from the strain and exhaustion that had plagued him. For a moment, he felt a rush of gratitude and elation, believing he had found a way out of their dire situation. However, his relief was short-lived. Just as the Viking settled into his newfound seat upon the horse, An unseen force seemed to grip him tightly, binding him to the horse's back. Panic replaced his hopeful expression as he struggled to free himself, but his efforts were in vain. The children watched in stunned silence as the horse, now carrying its captive, began to dive into the river's depths. The gasps of shock and disbelief spread through the group like wildfire, leaving behind an eerie silence in their wake. Their eyes remained fixed on the spot where the Viking had disappeared, the river's surface closing over him like a shroud. Sorrow and dread hung heavily in the air, a poignant reminder of the unpredictable and perilous nature of their world. "What just happened?" one of the boys stammered, his voice trembling with fear and confusion. The children exchanged bewildered glances, the sight before them shattering their illusions of escape and plunging them back into the harsh reality of their captivity. The enchanting vision of the horse had morphed into a haunting reminder of the dangers that lurked in every corner of their existence, reminding them that their hopes for freedom were fragile and easily shattered. "Listen, everyone!" The Jarl's voice cut through the tense atmosphere, laden with a somber knowledge. "It seems we camped in Kelpie territory," he explained, his hand waving for the other Vikings to gather the children. "We'll have to camp further away from these rivers." The tragic incident etched itself into their collective memory, a grim reminder of the perils that encircled them. The boundaries of captivity became clearer, fear intermingling with their desire to be free. Their fragile hope was tempered by the understanding that survival meant relying on the protection the Vikings offered. Though united by circumstance, the rift between captors and captives remained ever present, an undercurrent of tension that colored their interactions. The Vikings maintained a vigilant watch, anticipating any attempts at escape, while the children navigated a delicate balance, their dreams of liberation set against the reality of their perilous journey. Through the harsh and unforgiving landscape they journeyed, pushing their limits as they traversed towering mountains and tamed wild rivers. The weariness etched on their faces told the story of their struggles, and the weight of their task settled heavily upon their shoulders. Every step forward felt like a battle against nature itself, a relentless adversary that tested their mettle. Amidst this struggle, a stretcher carried the inert form of Ulrik, a burden both physical and emotional. The act of transporting him became a trial in itself, a slow and painstaking process that seemed to epitomize the group's plight. The archer commander, pragmatic and guided by the instinct for survival, engaged in a heated debate with the Jarl. "We cannot go on like this any further. Leave the boy behind." The archer commander's words clashing like swords in the air. "We need every product here to earn enough to make up everything we lost," the Jarl reminded. "We won't make it to Magisteria carrying a boy who might not even make it. It is dead weight." The archer commander snapped. "Consider it!" The commander's voice held a note of urgency. "Leaving Ulrik behind means greater mobility for the rest. It's a necessary sacrifice if we're to reach Magisteria in this lifetime." The Jarl's pause was a measured one, his expression thoughtful as he absorbed the commander's words. "I will think about it," he promised, his voice a steady anchor amidst the chaos. As the journey pressed on, the urgency grew more palpable, a persistent drumbeat that underscored their need to keep moving. The archer commander's plea for pragmatism intensified, her eyes locking onto the Jarl's as if to convey the gravity of their situation. "Think about the end goal," she urged, her tone edged with desperation. "Leaving Ulrik behind would mean settling with the number of slaves who can walk. It's a necessary sacrifice if they're to reach Magisteria." Before a decision could be reached, a deep voice cut through the tension, a resonating interruption that commanded attention. "You are not leaving the boy behind," the large man declared, his stance unyielding as he stepped into the fray. The commander's patience frayed at the edges, her retort sharp. "One boy is not worth jeopardizing everyone else's lives." A brief but charged silence hung in the air as the large man's gaze bore into the archer commander's. "He made his worth with the Kraken, so he is worth it." His words resonated with a conviction that refused to waver, a stark reminder that even in dire circumstances, a single life could hold immense value. As the group came to a halt, their exhaustion etched on every face. The collective weariness hung heavily in the air. The journey had extracted its toll, their bodies and spirits showing signs of the strenuous path they had traversed. "We need to leave this boy behind, or we won't reach town, my Jarl." The archer commander's voice brimmed with urgency, her words punctuated by a firm demand. Amidst the mutterings of discontent and frustration among the Vikings, a deep voice cut through the clamor. "Why complain if you're not carrying the stretcher?" The large man's retort held an edge of challenge, his gaze shifting to the men with a threatening undertone that coerced their reluctant agreement. "If you want the boy to come, you carry him yourself," the commander snapped, her tone as sharp as her words. With each conflicting emotion and rising protest, the atmosphere crackled with tension, the heated debates becoming a storm that threatened to engulf them all. The Jarl's commanding presence emerged, his footsteps purposeful as he intervened, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Stop this noise," his command rang out, temporarily quelling the heated exchanges and restoring a fragile semblance of order. But the urgency remained, the archer commander's calm voice rising above the chorus of complaints. "Jarl, we need to leave the boy. Look at the men, and look how far we are from any sign of a town." The large man offered an alternative, his gaze sweeping over the group with a challenge. "We can hunt for food and rest if walking is too much for you all." In the midst of this deliberation, the Jarl dispatched a group for hunting while he weighed the decision that lay before them. The group's survival teetered on a precipice, the excruciating choice hovering like a spectre in their midst. "No, we are not leaving him behind!" Runa's voice, charged with defiance, pierced through the uncertainty. The chorus of protest grew louder as the children rallied against the notion of abandonment. With a trembling voice, Runa pressed on, her determination unwavering. "Please, we'll carry him if we have to, but don't leave him." Her brothers stood united behind her, an unspoken bond that spoke volumes. "They are slaves. They should carry the boy." The large man's words reverberated with a bitter undercurrent, a reminder of their captive status. The archer commander shot him a mean look, aware of the self-serving nature of his stance. The Jarl allowed it, knowing that the journey's survival was a delicate balance of pragmatism and necessity. The moment arrived, the two Vikings lowering the stretcher before the children. As the burden shifted, the gravity of their responsibility became palpable. When it was time for the children to take up the mantle, their smaller frames and unwavering determination showcased the enormity of the task they were willingly shouldering. 6 children, bound by gratitude and resolve, huddled around Ulrik. Their gazes met, understanding the weight of their charge. Not just the physical load, but the trust placed in them to carry the safety and well-being of their friend. The agreement was made, but with a stern condition. They were allowed to carry Ulrik, but only if they could keep pace with the rest. The unspoken challenge loomed, the fate of their companion resting on the resilience of their young shoulders. Seeing the children lagging behind with the stretcher, the archer commander's annoyance flared up. However, having eaten and drunk their fill, her irritation was slightly tempered by a sense of satiety. As they trudged up the hill, their weary bodies protesting the effort, a sense of anticipation grew among the group. With each step, the terrain gradually shifted, revealing a breathtaking sight in the distance. A quaint town nestled in the valley below, its clusters of well-structured buildings standing as a beacon of hope in the midst of the rugged landscape. Whispers of excitement and relief rippled through the group as they caught sight of the town, their fatigue momentarily forgotten in the face of the unexpected discovery. The town's warmth populated with people against the approaching twilight, creating a serene and inviting atmosphere that contrasted with the challenges they had faced on their journey. "Look there, a town," a child's voice carried with a sense of wonder, capturing the sentiment of everyone present. The Jarl's face broke into a rare smile as he beheld the town, his relief evident in the way his shoulders eased. "We've found a town," he declared, his voice carrying a note of triumph and reassurance. As they continued their descent towards the welcoming sight of the town, the weariness that had plagued them seemed to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and a glimmer of hope. The town, with its promises of shelter, rest, and perhaps even answers, served as a reminder that their journey was nearing its destination, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As the group found respite in a town not too distant from their current location, a rare moment of quiet descended upon them, affording the Jarl and the archer commander a chance to engage in a more private exchange about their future plans. Sitting at a slight distance, the Jarl observed his Viking crew and the children, his gaze settling on Ulrik and the unmistakable bond he shared with Runa. Beside him, the archer commander sat, her helmet removed to reveal long blonde hair that cascaded down her shoulders. "Remember when we were like that?" The archer commander spoke with a hint of nostalgia, a fondness tinting her words. "Before your father made you Jarl." The Jarl's response came in the form of a sigh, a fleeting acknowledgement of simpler times. "There's no point in remembering the past. Is remembering past dreams pointless? Or selling these children you call products what you aspired to since we were their age?" Her question hung in the air, a challenge to his perspective. The Jarl stood in silence, his only response a non-committal grunt. "Have you something useful to ask me, Ingrid?" he inquired, his voice carrying an undertone of annoyance. A small smile tugged at her lips as she touched his hand, guiding it to her stomach. "Will this be our last job, Jarl Hagen of Moberg?" Her gaze bore into his, a serious question weighted with meaning. The Jarl's eyes widened at the implications, his hand quickly pulled away. He looked away, clearing his throat. "This will be our last job." "Look at me when you speak truths," Ingrid demanded, her tone unyielding. The Jarl paused, then turned back, meeting her gaze squarely. "Once we return, we'll settle down, and I'll have other men raid without me, without us," he spoke with determination. "I like Ivar." "Ivar?" Ingrid's smile held a note of amusement, catching him off guard. "When did you come up with that name?" The Jarl cleared his throat and walked away, his excitement veiled beneath a veneer of stoicism. "I need to check with the crew. We can't afford losing anyone else," he muttered, his thoughts consumed by the weight of his commitment. Meanwhile, Ulrik's presence had not gone unnoticed by the large man, who approached the young boy with eagerness. "You are a strong boy, worthy to be my apprentice," the large man proclaimed, his enthusiasm clashing with Ulrik's unconscious face. The archer commander, however, interjected with a reality check. "We need every child to pay for everything we have lost, so stop your nonsense." "I'm serious," the large man insisted, his plans undiminished. "I know I will be head of a raid one day, and I want this boy at my side," he said, picking up Ulrik's body. "His bandages. Put him down," Runa's firm voice cut through. "Shelby, put the boy down and control yourself," the archer commander commanded, her voice carrying an air of authority. The atmosphere suddenly paused as the large man put Ulrik down. Amidst the flickering light of the campfire, the unexpected revelation of the hulking man's name, Shelby, hung in the air like a spell of disbelief. The Vikings and children exchanged bewildered glances, their faces mirroring a mixture of astonishment and confusion. As the dynamics of the situation played out, the atmosphere transformed from one of surprise to a lively hub of gossip and laughter. The campfire's glow seemed to intensify, casting dancing shadows on their faces as questions swirled around the mysterious name, Shelby. The hulking man, his imposing figure belying the revelation, snapped in his own defense, his voice carrying a touch of annoyance and pride. "It's a man's name too," he asserted, his gaze directed at the archer commander, a knowing look shared between them that hinted at a history of playful banter. Laughter rippled through the group, like the gentle ripples of water in a tranquil lake. One Viking, seizing the opportunity to contribute to the jovial atmosphere, chimed in, "Don't be ashamed, my friend. My wife has that name too." His words were met with hearty laughter, the camaraderie of the group becoming more pronounced in the shared amusement. In the midst of the mirth, the archer commander strode confidently towards the hulking man, her hands planted firmly on her hips, her gaze unwavering. Her words, laced with both playful reproach and genuine challenge, cut through the air. "Don't tell me you are unaware of your foolishness, Shelby. You should have left the boy behind," she declared, her voice carrying a mixture of teasing and sincerity. The hulking man's face flushed, a combination of irritation and embarrassment coloring his features. He towered over her like a tree to a bush. As he grunted and walked away, his pride slightly wounded but not defeated, the archer commander's presence seemed to grow even stronger, her unwavering demeanor embodying her strength and resilience. Observing the scene from a distance, the Jarl contemplated the path that lay ahead. His commitment to both his crew and Ingrid weighed on his mind, and he made his way to the large man, tapping his shoulder with purpose. "Follow me, Shelby," the Jarl instructed, leading the large man to a vantage point overlooking the landscape beneath the moon's glow. "This is my last raid," the Jarl revealed, eliciting surprise from the large man. "You will be the new leader for the raids." The large man's excitement was palpable. "Can I have the boy?" "We'll see once we get to the market," the Jarl replied, his eyes reflecting a hint of amusement. "Now rest. The sooner we sell the children, the sooner we get home." The journey continued, carrying with it the echoes of the previous night's discussions. Uncertainty hung heavy in the air as the past and present collided in a tumultuous dance, their actions guided by the imperative of survival. As the group moved forward, the archer commander's impatience resurfaced when the children struggled to keep up with Ulrik on the stretcher. "That's it. We'll never get anywhere with the dead weight," she declared, her tone firm as she aimed an arrow at Ulrik, the tension building with each passing second. As Runa embraced Ulrik on the stretcher, something remarkable happened. "Don't hurt him." Ulrik raised his hand, shocking everyone around. The boys lowered the stretcher as a determined fire in Ulrik's eyes, and against all odds, he managed to stand up on his own, defying the dire circumstances that had threatened to hold him back. Runa held on to him, concerned about any negative possibilities. The large man's swift intervention prevented the archer commander from intervening with her arrow. With unwavering resolve, Ulrik confidently took his place beside Runa on his feet. With a hint of defiance in his voice, he addressed the archer commander. "Now you've got nothing to complain about." The Jarl's smile of quiet approval acknowledged the remarkable display of resilience from Ulrik. Meanwhile, the archer commander, her annoyance palpable, turned away from the scene, unable to deny the determination and strength that had just unfolded before her eyes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, the weary group of Vikings and children finally reached their destination, the town that had appeared as a distant mirage earlier in the day. Their tired bodies carried the weight of their arduous journey, but the sight of civilization brought a glimmer of hope to their exhausted souls. With the town in sight, the Vikings pressed forward, driven by the promise of rest and respite. Amidst the bustling streets and curious onlookers, they located a humble barn that would serve as temporary shelter for the children. The group's anticipation was palpable as they secured the children within the barn, ensuring their safety before they turned their attention to their own needs. The inn stood as a welcoming haven, its warm light spilling out onto the cobblestone street. The aroma of hearty food and ale filled the air, enticing their senses and soothing their fatigue. With a collective sigh of relief, The Vikings pushed open the inn's heavy wooden door and stepped into a world of comfort and indulgence. Seated around a large table, they drank and feasted, laughter and camaraderie filling the room. Tankards clinked, and hearty tales were exchanged as the events of the grueling journey faded into the background. The flickering candlelight danced across their faces, casting a warm and cozy glow that contrasted with the harshness of the world beyond the inn's walls. For a brief moment, the burdens of their past and the uncertainties of their future were forgotten. The hearty food, the flowing ale, and the company of their fellow Vikings offered a fleeting escape from the challenges they had faced on their journey. In the midst of the revelry, they found solace and a much-needed reprieve, allowing themselves to be swept away by the simple joys of the present moment.
Explore Mythtastical World, our Etsy store filled with enchanting merchandise inspired by the magical realm of fantasy. Discover delightful products celebrating mythical creatures, epic adventures, and fantastical landscapes. Head to the description section for the link and other links. Embark on a journey of imagination with our whimsical creations.